If you enjoy what we do here, you should definitely check out youtube.com/@MWPNewsGaming. It's our new YouTube channel where we do basically talking like this while also playing video games, old games, older games. We'd like to do new games, but those cost money. So old games, older games, retro games, forgotten games, all kinds of games. While I talk about it, get frustrated, all that kind of cool stuff. We talk about, movies, TV shows, anything like that. YouTube.com/@MWP News Gaming. Please be sure you subscribe. That'll help us out a lot. And if you feel like we're doing a good job, please donate. ko-fi.com/MWP News. Thank you and enjoy this episode. Good evening and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam on this. The temperature has been very weird lately. We had that awful heat wave earlier this week. Now all of a sudden it's down to almost 60, like almost in the 60s. So my wardrobe and air conditioning in my car are getting a little bit of whiplash. So what we have today is Joseph Kosinski. Yeah, the guy who did Top Gun Maverick, his new movie, F1 the movie, which is, look, let's not sugarcoat it. This is a lengthy advertisement for F1 as an organization. It's to get you, into F1. And in the same way that, basically every sports movie is kind of they're all kind of the same story. They're all kind of just advertising for whatever organization runs that sport. And every time I leave one of these movies and I'm like, God damn, the sports movie is one of my favorite subgenres of drama that I will go and see every single fucking time they come out with one of these. Because I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't like UFC. I'm not a UFC fan. I never have been, or really any competitive fighting. Be it real ones like UFC or boxing, or things like WWE. But goddamn, that trailer for the Smashing Machine has me sold every time I see it. You put someone doing some athletic event in a movie, and I will watch that fucking movie any fucking day. And that's where I am with F1. And I went to see that today because I was like, all right. Even Gran Turismo a few years ago, I left that goddamn. And that's the thing, is that I saw this, and there are three things that were my thoughts as soon as I left this movie. Number one, I really, really want to start watching F1. Number two, that F1 game that speaks to me like the Green Goblin mask every time it pops up on Steam may end up getting bought if I can get a good sale on it during the summer sale. And number three, I want Kosinski to do what he talked about, which I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, but I want him to do what he talked about in an interview on the press tour for this, which is doing a crossover movie with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise and doing F1 meets Days of Thunder, and I'm completely sold on that. It is your basic run-of-the-mill sports story. So you have this guy who was a F1 racer back in the 90s who, he had a bad accident, and then he started doing other racing to try and recapture the thrill. He ends up getting brought out of retirement from F1 by someone else who he raced with back in the day, played by Javier Bardem. And he gets brought onto this team to learn how to work as a team and all of that. And again, it's the thing about these movies that work every time is that I don't know the rule of F1, and I think that this is one of the things that, at times I bumped into, but only because I'm a novice at F1 and I don't understand the rules. There's no new character. No character who's new to this that you need to explain what's happening to, which leaves people like me kind of at a loss for what's going on, because I don't understand what is, how everything works, or who everyone is, or what the, what the intricacies of how these races work are, and I think that is kind of a little bit of a, that is my problem to deal with, not the movie's problem. And I think to an extent, it's like not knowing how it works. I didn't bump into that as often as I thought I would. I thought it would be a much bigger problem for me throughout this movie, but I think I got enough to understand what was going on. I think that so he gets brought into this team with this young guy, and the two of them have to learn how to work together as they do it. Now, by and large, I enjoyed this movie. I think the third act really nails it, and I think that this is not something that should surprise anyone, considering that, I got a lot of the same feelings I did watching Top Gun Maverick. And Top Gun's not one of my favorite movies by any stretch of the imagination. I watched Top Gun for the first time the week I saw Top Gun Maverick. I went back and watched Top Gun just so I could understand it, and it's one of those things that I was like, all right, cool, I guess. But seeing I got a lot of the same feelings from this movie as I watched it. A lot of it comes from his ability to, compose a shot with this high octane action and doing that very well. The score is fantastic from Hans Zimmer. He does a fantastic job here. And the emotional moments work enough that it carries. It's just, some of the things I bump into are kind of some of the narrative things that happen throughout the movie. I think that Joshua, the younger guy, that Sonny, who's Brad Pitt, works with, I think that he isn't really developed that well, and he's kind of just a foil for him, which is a shame because when you get to the end of the movie, there's a real moment where it should have been a passing of the torch that doesn't quite happen the way you would hope it would. And I think that that's a shame, especially considering that the way the movie begins and ends, and what he does, he's kind of playing the racing equivalent of the man who comes to town, the Mandalorian, the story of the samurai who comes in and helps the town with their problems and then leaves. And that's kind of what he is. He comes in, he joins the team to race, he races for a little bit, and then, they get their win, he leaves, and, everyone's left better off. And that's what it is here. It's just the story of what happens here. It's it starts with the end of the previous story, him helping out to win the 24 Hours of Daytona, which I don't know if it's a real race, but I'll take their word for it. And then it ends with him going to this race happening in Mexico, with a totally different type of car. And it's just, he's a really good racer. He shows up, he helps them win, and then he leaves. And I think that by and large, that's why this movie kind of works. But for that to work, the characters around the man who comes to town have to be interesting, and you have to be interested to see where they go. I'm not necessarily interested to see where they go. From here, I'm more interested to see where he goes next, and whether or not that involves Tom Cruise from Days of Thunder. And I think that that's kind of a problem. And I think, too, it's okay, his issue is that he wants to, he's a rookie racer, he's learning how to do that, but, we don't see him learn how to, communicate with another racer. We don't get that moment of him. What I needed was in that scene in the hospital, I needed that scene of him working with the other guy who was subbing in when he was injured, Joshua. I need the two of them gelling. I need one more race in the middle of the two of them gelling, so that way we get to that moment. Similarly, both with him and with, I think her name was Kate, Carrie Condon's character, a lot of backstory just feels like exposition dumping, which is not great for what it is meant to be. What ends up happening when you do that is you end up just kind of, we need to go through the motions to get here and get to the end. And then similarly, my biggest issue, I think, with her is we're introduced to her being single kind of late Like the thing where it's like they offered me the job, and then I was working for Lockheed Martin, and then I got offered the job to come build a car, and I changed my mind, and my husband disagreed, and then he quickly became my ex-husband. That happens very late into the movie comparatively, especially into the relationship between Sonny and Kate as professionals, somewhat antagonistic. And then you get to the end of the, what's it called, you get to, the next scene, which is her in the bar with Sonny and Joshua, and she's kind of trying to get them to get on the same page, and it kind of works to an extent. But, like, that scene, Joshua leaves and leaves the two of them alone, and she says, I keep a professional boundary and all of that, and besides, I only like winners, and then he shows he wins. And it's like, the issue with that is, I would have liked to have had that relationship kind of rebalanced throughout the movie. And I think that, like, by rebalance, it's kind of like, I'm using like a video game or a board game term, where it's like, that relationship is very loaded into the moment where the two of them do finally hook up. And it's loaded in towards that moment. And I don't think that quite works. Like, what ends up happening is you end up in this place. At what point are you writing all that shit on your car? Do you not question your own sanity? We have a few people out here who write manifestos on the outside of their car, and every time I see that, I'm like, at what point in doing that are you like, yes, this is something that a normal person does? And I am one of those normal people, therefore I am doing it. Everyone else who doesn't do that, they're weird, but I'm the normal person doing this. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm seeing this, and I would have liked to have had that moment of her saying, like, I don't get into romantic entanglements with coworkers. I keep a professional boundary. I would have liked that earlier, and then slowly seen that break down until you get to that moment. Ultimately, that moment doesn't feel like it amounts to anything, because at the end he just leaves, and it's that thing of like, I'll see you down the road. It feels cheap to an extent. It feels like we're shortchanged out of that relationship. And I feel like that's something that would have been, better, not articulated maybe, but like, it would have lined up better down the road, I think. And I think that's kind of my issue with it, is that it's like, you want to have a romantic relationship, and you have to build that from scratch for this movie, because this is an original property. So, like, you need to kind of load it, or, like, it sounds like he's gonna fuck her. And, like, that's gonna be the key moment here, is that the two of them are going to fuck. And then it's like, how do we load that into the script? And it's like, they kind of loaded it kind of weird. But, I don't know, that's the least of kind of my, my issues with that. And I think it's too, like, there were other things like that, like when Joshua gets injured because he doesn't listen to Sonny, that happens at a point that you would think would be the turning point in their relationship, where it's like, oh, he comes off like an asshole, but he knows what he's talking about. And then for that realization to happen so much further down the line, I don't think that was necessarily worth it. And I think that, like, what this is about is it's about two guys, like, that's kind of my issue with it too, is that it's like, from the beginning, when we're brought into the world of F1, we're told this is a team sport. This is not a sport like, other forms of racing where it's like it's you versus everyone else. It's a team sport. And I get that, but, like, at the same time, it's like, If Joshua is an up-and-coming racer who's really good at F1, shouldn't he know that? So having to have the situation where the two of them are fighting over position, and the two of them have to learn to work as a team, that feels weird in the wider scope of what this movie is. which is a little unfortunate. What else have we got that I wanted to address with this? Yeah, I mean, the movie's really good. I do really enjoy it because I think the racing sequences are what sell it. In the same way that, like, you go to see Top Gun Maverick and you're like, oh, the things that the military aircraft fights and the moments when they're in the plane are the thing that sell it. It's that I love the aesthetic of the way they lay out the world of F1 too. Like, everything there is so, like, there's a level of, like, futuristic cleanliness to everything that's very visually appealing. And then again, the score is just fantastic. And I think the thing is too, it's like I think they know what they're dealing with in terms of, like, they know why you're here. So you never go too long without a race. And I think that is kind of an important thing. Is that you're gonna see people in cars near constantly through this movie. It's not like Godzilla or what was the other one we were talking about today at work? Transformers, where it's like there's not enough time. Like, they'll spend long periods of time between. No, this is just, you are constantly in the thick of it with these races. But yeah, I really liked this movie. I really appreciated what they did. But I would say it's a 5-star movie. Sorry, I yawned. I was trying to avoid making a loud yawn noise, and it just ended up silent. This is a 5. Or 4.5. We'll say 4.5. I think the narrative issues are, a little bit to bump into, but by and large, like, what this movie is it's a spectacle. It's here to, what's it called? It's you're here to watch the fast cars go fast and all of it, and the drama of the racing, and you get that, and that's what you're here for. The narrative issues are a little secondary, but I think they are rampant enough through the movie that it's worth addressing and worth maybe marking down a little bit for that issue. But this is a solid movie. This is a very solid movie, and I appreciate what they're doing here. But on that note, we will wrap up there for today. Our next episode will be on next week. I forgot what day I'm going to see it, but I am seeing Jurassic World next week. Jurassic World, Rebirth. That's next week. Then the week after is Superman. Then the week after that, I don't know, but the week after that is Fantastic Four. And then we are onward into August. But yeah, we got some cool things coming up. In a few weeks, Peter will be joining in on 30-minute reviews for our mid-year top 5. Josie will at some point be joining in for our ranking of Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We'll be doing just the movies this time. Yeah, we'll be wrapping up there for today. Until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.